Another quick note for our guests, the way we evaluate here in Master Motivators is the speech evaluator will be allocated 3 minutes and there will be a 5-minute round table to go around the room. So keep that in mind that you might want to have a comment, and we also have on the table in front of you sheets for reviewing the speech evaluation. Characteristics of high-level performers. We all have characteristics of high-level performance within us. How do we find these characteristics and activate them? Our speaker today has made a life study of characteristics of high-level performance. He is in 4 sports Hall of Fames. He has excelled as a coach, a mentor, a TV personality at 4 Olympic Games. In his profession as a personal coach for greatness, Vic strives to bring out the characteristics of high-level performance in all of his clients. Today, Vic will share 3 key characteristics which we can all use to achieve personal greatness in all aspects of our life. Please welcome Vic Lindal, Characteristics of High-Level Performers.
Mr. Toastmaster, incredible guest array and fellow Toastmasters. When we talked about the characteristics of high-level performers, it was years ago that I read a book by Dr. Charles Garfield. And he identified some of the characteristics that had some people excel and others not necessarily excel. But here's the key that I found, is we all have glimpses of being high-level performers. We have glimpses of it. The question is to capture it and take action. Today I'd like to talk about 3 of the 17, by the way, characteristics of high-level performers. But if you master these 3, you're on the way to being exceptional. The first one is high-level performers know how to master their time. Harvey's a great example of that. A few years ago, when we were discussing how to get your communication, your leadership program, Harvey had it all down to record when he was going to be a Toastmaster, when he was going to be a grammarian. And he had it all laid out. The exact dates that he's going to be on the agenda. It's a little warm in here. I'm going to turn this down. That's an example, though, of knowing what you want to get done and making sure you've recorded it. The other characteristic of a high-level performer is that they are exceptional communicators. Communicators in a slightly different model, which I will deliver. Now, part of this presentation is to be a forerunner to the presentation I'll be giving to the Toyota dealers as part of our thank you to them using their boardroom. So a lot of it will be around the sales process. But the big one is foresight and the ability to carry out long-range planning. Now, most of us have heard of Elon Musk. And his foresight is, I'm going to put a man on the moon. Or not the moon, Mars. But who is Jeff Bezos? How many know who Jeff Bezos is? And where is his office located?
Mars.
No, he's not in Mars. But he does have a space program. It's in Seattle. Now, you want to know about foresight. He was a banker on Wall Street. And he came home one day and he said to his wife, "We're moving to Seattle." They were in New York. She goes, "What?" "Yes. And we're going to start a new online book selling company on the internet." She said, "What's the internet?" But that's foresight. It's a tiny thing because we hear people knocking Amazon now. But when he decided to do that, that was immense foresight. Why did he go to Seattle? Does anybody know?
Microsoft's there.
The fact that Microsoft is there is part of it because there would be technology people. But the main reason? Lower taxes. He'd worked that out. That's foresight. So let's first talk about when you hear a presentation like this, it's only as good as the ahas that you get and the action that you might take. As I was preparing this presentation, I got to thinking about Napoleon Hill's, my favorite quote from Napoleon Hill. Some people have read his book, Think and Grow Rich. Others have read the 17 Principles of Success. It's kind of a better title. Show me how a person spends their free time, and I'll tell you where they'll be in 10 years. And from Carol Dweck's book, The Mindset, she said, you want to be on the Be Good program or the Get Better program? If you want to be on the Get Better program, then you are doing the things today to help you into the future. That's why Dr. George McMaster and I are writing a new book called Aging on Fire. Yeah, how do you want to spend your elder years? Would you like to be warehoused? Because we've got a lot of elder care warehouses. We've got them all available for you. But what's the picture and what are you doing? Do you want to end up in the hospital with a broken hip? Which, by the way, when I was riding my bike, I thought, wow, if I hadn't been training so hard, that's where I'd be right now. I had a crash on my bike going around Langford Lake. I was really moving into, and it was dark in there, and I had my dark glasses on. And can you believe it? They had a stump. I thought it was in the middle of the path, but it turns out it was off to the side. And I hit it, boom, down I went. Normally, your friend would now be on the phone calling 911 to take me in for a hip replacement. But no, because I do my strength training today means that I'm strong enough to combat that into the future. So now when we talk about time effectiveness, I like to talk about the 4 quadrants of time effectiveness. And I'm just going to ask you to hand this out. You may or may not look at it now, but the 4 quadrants of time effectiveness. And I put this up. This quadrant is quadrant 1. It's very difficult for you to see, but this quadrant is urgent and important. This quadrant is the one to live in. It's not urgent, but it's important. Now here's the question. It's a real simple one. Where does a heart attack go?
Important and urgent.
Quadrant 1. Where does prevention of a heart attack go?
Quadrant 2.
Quadrant 2. Where does divorce go? Quadrant 1. Where does relationship building go? Quadrant 2. That the simple secret is to say what's important but not urgent, and am I allocating time? It's not important and urgent to become an exceptional communicator, but unless you put in the time, you stumble at that wedding that you'll go to when your daughter gets married, or the funeral when all your buddies have gone. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be prepared. Specialty speeches, by the way, is a good one to prepare. Have you done the specialty speeches one? Yeah, they got one in there for a eulogy, haven't they? Yeah. Okay. The 4 quadrants, but here's the ultimate secret. If it's in the important but not urgent, then you must allocate the time. And my secret is very simple. You extract it out and put it on your dream week. I've since, in the material that you've got there, I called it an integrity week. It's called an integrity week. Like, say what you mean what you say, and do what you say and mean. That's integrity. Once it's on there, then show up. Some people say half of life for success is showing up, which is what happened to a lot of people this morning. The poor greeter was overwhelmed this morning with all the people that showed up. So I'm saying Stephen Covey had it right in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey may have wanted to get the dream week more indelibly on people's minds. The other tiny element on time effectiveness is there's 3 ways to do an overwhelming project. One is you just stay at it till it's done. Cleaning your house, just stay at it till it's done. The other is to say, I'll clean up one corner. That's called chunking. Most people have heard how to eat an elephant. One bite at a time. The best one is you allocate 47 minutes to do whatever it is. Some people say, how is it that you managed to walk from the French Pyrenees to Santiago de Compostela? That's 800 kilometers. 47 minutes at a time. How did you ride your bike from Victoria to Manitoba? By the way, it wasn't Winnipeg, I just made it across the border. That was, so some people think, I have to confess. 47 minutes at a time. I do 47 minutes and sit down, take a break. But you know what? We came up with this years ago. It's turned out to be a magic formula that people are talking about now, because you take the 47 minutes and then you take a 9 to 11 minute break, and it's amazing. You come back fired up. Second characteristic of high-level performers is they're exceptional communicators. Now, I love this quote. Some people say I should memorize it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to read it. From Carmen Gallo's new book, 5-Star Communication. The very nature of work is changing. Think about that. The very nature of work is changing. So are the skills required to stand out, get ahead, and achieve greatness in one of the most transformative moments in history. So the skills have changed. If you can persuade, gee. If you can inspire, if you can ignite the imagination of others, you will be unstoppable, irresistible, and irreplaceable. And that's why you joined Toastmasters, isn't it?
Yes.
Exactly. That's why he's here. To be able to persuade, inspire, ignite the imagination of others. Wow! Do we have a product? But if I'm talking to salespeople, the secret to success in communication is to ask questions. Show an interest in the other person. And Neil Rackham, who wrote the best book on the sales process, said, follow this acronym, SPIN. I know it sounds a little off spin, but the first is ask people situational questions. And if we're talking about sales, then you ask them problem questions. Then you ask them the implication of the problem. Like, if you continue to stumble in your public speaking, is that a problem? The implication is you'll never get promoted. If you're talking about a car dealership, is the fact that your car is whatever costing you money on maintenance, etc. The implications. Now then comes the needs payoff. But where Rackham missed in his book is when you're thinking of the needs payoff, start with the end in mind by putting down all the reasons why what you're talking about are the superior solutions. See, why is Toastmasters a superior solution to everything else that's offered in the communication and leadership in this world? If we think about that, we can take people through the process. Win Wingard also had what I considered one of the all-time great questions. And he said, do you want the people around you to think like a genius? Most people say yes. But when you ask them what their goal is, or where they're going, or why they want to do something, only ask one question. Why is that important to you now? I remember doing this for a Toastmasters group in Malaysia, and I took them through this exercise. Wow, was that ever exciting. Oh, by the way, when they answer, you say, why is that important to you now? And when they answer, you say, why is that important to you now? And the real question is, how deep can you go in asking that one question? It's amazing how you can uncover the genius in the other person. The final characteristic of, well, there's many, I said, but the big characteristic is foresight and the ability to carry out long-range planning. That's to a large extent why we created the book Endpoint Visualization and Beyond. I found that many Olympic athletes had the picture maybe of the gold medal, but they hadn't figured out where they were going past the gold medal. One of my clients, Brian Price, is a manager of a bank in Fergus, Ontario. 2008 Olympics, they won the gold medal in rowing. He was the coxswain. So he looked at the gold medal. What am I going to do now? I thought, public speaking. We helped him in the public speaking, but guess what? Yes, he had a good story. Yes, he could deliver well. But he needed to be out there doing the marketing. You have to go out there and get places to speak. So after 2 years, this is pretty tough. So he went back to the rowing. Went back to the rowing. The coxswain that was there after 2 years wasn't too impressed. And he beat him out. I don't know how you beat out a coxswain, other than maybe have a fight off or something. But. So the next Olympics, 2012 in London, silver medal. Same problem. What am I going to do now? I've got a gold and a silver. So it was about that time his wife said, quit wandering around in the dark and phone Vic and get back on the program. I highly compliment the wife. So my only question is, where do you want to be and what do you want to do? So he took the role of the Royal Bank, I always call it the token Olympian, because they take and try to rehabilitate Olympians and take them working. But I kept asking the question, where do you want to be? So he would do speeches, he'd do presentations. And we kept asking, where do you want to be? He's now a manager of a bank in Fergus, Ontario. But what has he found? He finds that he has to apply the same principles that he did in the rowing. You see, Mike Spracklin was one of the best rowing coaches in the world. And they knew set time, set place, set agenda for the rowing. If he wants to be successful in the bank, he has to have set time, set place, set agenda for huddles with his staff. He's getting it. But he's gone from being the token Olympian to being a bank manager of a very successful bank in Ontario.